Thanks especially to Ann and May Williams for working with us over the past 15 months to help shape this memorial for Chris. We're pleased to have them and May's husband, Brad. Brad?
He's in the back.
In the back. Hiding in the back. Hi, Brad. Thanks for joining us. Thanks also to my working partner, Mr. James McFarland, who I think we all know of as, well, what do we know you as?
I don't know, McDoney.
McDoney, yes, McDoney.
Notoriety.
For helping to make this effort a reality. Thanks to my friends in the GMP Design Committee, in particular for their support. Shortly after Chris's untimely passing in June of 2024, we embarked on a way to create a lasting remembrance to him. Countless people have given their ideas and advice, shared memories of Chris during this process. We'll be inviting any of you who care to share your thoughts about Chris and memories. When Jim and I have finished, it'll be a couple of hours from now. I met Chris in 2016 when I attended my first GMP annual meeting, during which I learned about the nonprofit organization and its various committees. I learned that Chris was one of the founders of the Greater Meredith program in 2004, along with a group of other prominent Meredith individuals. I see one of them, Rusty McClear, sitting right here. I don't know if there are any other original founders. Nancy, were you part of that group?
Not original,
No? Way back in 2004? Pardon? Paul Eldridge.
Ginny was there.
And
Ginny.
Ginny.
Yeah, Ginny.
Yeah, hi, Ginny. I saw you were the first one here after me. Chris sat on the board of directors and was chairman of the design committee, which he established. He remained in those roles until his passing last year. This committee is involved in town-wide beautification efforts, working in parks and green spaces, and also in building and site preservation. Chris is also a key leader in the New Hampshire Preservation Alliance. This design committee volunteer work interested me, and Chris invited me to join the committee. I became immersed in GMP mainly through this committee. Because Chris was involved in so many efforts in Meredith at the state level and was known nationally, it had a significant impact on me. He asked me to become a co-chair of the design committee, which I accepted, and subsequently I joined the GMP board. During the next 6 years, I worked closely with Chris and had the opportunity to get to know him as a person. I appreciated his modest, courteous style and his generosity, his talents, and his many virtues. Another important event in our relationship was when he invited me, I would say turned me on, to the blues music show at Pittman's Freight Room, a local venue which is no longer operating, unfortunately. I love music, and so we attended many concerts together thereafter. A couple of noteworthy projects for which Chris was dedicated and implemented through our design committee have achieved milestones in 2025. One such project was convincing the town, after many years of dedicated partnering and volunteer work with the Meredith Parks and Recreation Department, to create a fully accessible entrance to and a viewing area at Swayze Park, which is just up the road. These improvements will allow individuals with physical challenges to park vehicles and gain entrance to the park easily. In partnership with Plymouth State University, we also have created interpretive signage for the flora and fauna within the park for the benefit of school-aged children and adults alike. A second effort which Chris established several years ago was dedicated a second effort which Chris established several years ago and was dedicated to, has been revitalized this year. It is to assist in the preservation and improvement of Meredith properties through a formal grant program in collaboration with the owners and or tenants of the properties when a project needs financial assistance. Both initiatives are examples of the breadth and commitment of Chris Williams. It's an understatement to say that I will miss him greatly. I do miss him greatly, as do many other people, I'm sure. You want to talk about this, Chris? Jim, or do you want me to?
You go ahead.
Okay, I want to move on to this, the monument and the planter box. Nancy Levine designed this planter box. She and her team of volunteers installed and nurtured the beautiful bushes and plants you see here today. Matt Bickford did the construction late in 2024. Caleb King, is Caleb here? Of King Stoneworks donated the raw stone for the monument, and his team fabricated it, into which he set the plaque. He arranged to have the finished monument installed by a crane in the planter box this spring. The bronze plaque, which you'll see shortly, was fabricated by International Bronze, introduced to us by Jim McFarland. Jim, I think you worked with them on a number of projects,
Yeah,
right?
it's McPlack.
In this case, Mr. McPlack. Bonnie Edwards, is Bonnie here? Bonnie created the image that was used for the plaque from the building drawings which Chris had created for the 1988 addition to the library.
Yeah,
And the view is from the other side of the building that you'll see when we unveil this, which we're not going to do yet.
Okay, Jim, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I will be brief. I know. No notes, so I have to be brief. So, first, I too want to thank Bill, my good friend, for partnering with me in our project to honor Chris. Detailed, cares deeply, a delight and a very good friend. So thank you, Bill. I moved to Meredith about 10 years ago and dived into this community with both feet. And part of that was to investigate this other service organization called Greater Meredith Program. So I looked them up on their website and I saw the different committees you could be on. So I said, okay, I'm gonna attend a committee meeting for each committee, and then I'll decide, which one I want to join. So I went to the internship committee and beautiful, all this stuff. The last one I visited was the design committee, and I walked in, happened to be at Nancy Levine's house that day, and I was thrilled because I walked in, and there in the kitchen were 15 wine bottles. And on the table where everyone was seated, Chris at the end, running the meeting, was more wine glasses. So I said to myself, that's it, I've just found my committee. So, and as our members know, it can be very festive and loud and raucous, but doing all of that, okay, we get a heck of a lot done on the design committee, and that was in large part through Chris's quiet, powerful, I use the two words together because we both shut up because we couldn't hear Chris. He was very soft-spoken, and it worked in his favor because we had to be quiet and listen to what he was saying, which made a lot of sense in all cases. So anyway, I want to thank Chris also because when we started our effort to design and build the now finished beautiful Veterans Memorial here on the library lawn, we needed an architect and we needed someone with the skills to do that. And so we went to Chris's organization, and without hesitation, he volunteered Norm Larson. Thank you, Norm. Incredible job. Absolutely incredible. The end result is truly stunning and fitting. So, an in-kind donation for all design services for that monument. That was huge, okay? It was money that we didn't have to raise, okay? And so, again, a huge contribution to the community in every regard. So as I got to know Chris, my respect for him and appreciation for who he was and what he has done for this community grew and grew and grew. And as Bill just said, and I reiterate and share it with him, we miss him dearly. Rest in peace, Chris. Thank you. Okay, go for it. That's it. Bill's what, you're done?
We're amazed.
I know, see?
So now here we're going to do the unveiling.
Yes, the moment you've all been waiting for us to
Julie, thanks
shut
for
up.
helping me, where's Julie? For putting this tape on so nicely, because it's been really windy since then.
Yes.
Back in, when did we do this? Back in August maybe? Something
Yeah,
like that.
August.
It's been really windy this fall, and this has stood the test of the tape.
You can do the honors. It's not the big scissors, you know. Okay, anyone?
Thanks for coming.
Anyone who would like to
Yes.
say anything about Chris, please feel free to chime in. Hopefully some will. Yes, Carol.
So I met Chris Williams when we first moved to town in 2001, and through various volunteer projects. And one day he called me and he said, I'd like to take you to lunch. And I'm like, oh, this sounds great. So we met at the former Meredith Bay Coffee House. And who did he have with him? The senior program officer from New Hampshire Charitable Foundation. And they were there to invite me to join the board. And it was through Chris and his mentorship and his leadership and guidance that after I did my research, I'm like, this sounds like a group that I'd like to belong to, primarily because he had been so active in it. And so because of that, I served 2 terms and enjoyed a working relationship with him on that board.
Thank you, Carol.
Yes, Nancy.
Yes. When I first moved here, I think it was 2007, maybe 2008, I didn't know anybody. And my daughter read an article in the paper and pointed it out to me that they're looking for volunteers to plant the native garden at the community center. And I thought, I can do that. That's what I do. So that's where I met Chris, I met Ginny, I met a bunch of other people those were my very first friends in Meredith. And Chris was a good friend to me. I appreciated all of his advice. He got me involved with Greater Meredith program. And yes, I miss him greatly, yes, I know you do.
Norman.
If I can say something, I didn't know I was going to get a chance to speak.
Of course.
So I came here about 30 years ago to work for Chris from Denver, Colorado, and he was a great architect and a great boss, but he was an amazing volunteer, and I just think like it's so interesting to hear how involved he was here, because on top of being here, he was involved like all over. Like, so I just made a list while I was standing back there. You know, besides the Greater Meredith program, he was involved with the New Hampshire Preservation Alliance, which when I first applied for the job was called Inherit New Hampshire. It changed and grown since those days. And that's why I came to New Hampshire, was to work with preservation and work with Chris. But he was involved in the AIA, which is American Institute of Architects, at both the state and the national level, serving on boards and committees there. He was involved with the National Council of Architectural Registration Boards, where he served on boards and committees at the national level and was going around the country. We heard about the National Charitable Association, and then a host of local nonprofits, the Castle in the Clouds and the Squam Lakes Association, and a number of them eventually became clients because he was looking to help them everywhere he went. And it was just such an amazing man that he could find the time. Like we often wondered, like, where is Chris? And he'd be, off somewhere doing something like amazing with all these nonprofit groups. And I'm just so proud to have known him and to work with him, and we really miss him. So I'm so proud that they put something here to help honor him here in the local community.
Thank you. Your name is?
My name's Maggie Steer, and I'm here to representing the New Hampshire Preservation Alliance. And I wanted to go after Norman because he mentioned his service with our statewide nonprofit. And May has gone into the preservation field, and we work very closely with her too. Chris was an extraordinary leader of the preservation movement in New Hampshire and chaired our board for years and continued to serve on committees and guide us all in shaping the built environment of New Hampshire, preserving the best of what we had and understanding the importance of good design, much of which he volunteered to do on a pro bono basis, helping us guide our 7 to Save clients. Some of them became award winners, all thanks to Chris's quiet, powerful, incredibly talented leadership. So my condolences to Anne and May and the family, and thank you for doing this memorial to him today. It's terrific.
Thank you.
Maggie, you think he actually cloned himself? And maybe you know.
Well,
He seemed like he must have.
I honestly have no idea how he did as much as he did because he worked full time. He did all the volunteering. At the house, like, he was out mowing the fields with his sickle bar or cutting trees with his chainsaw or in his shop. Like, he was always working. And I would love to have a third of the amount of energy that he had. It's just kind of amazing.
As you get older, you get more energy. It'll
So
come.
far, that hasn't been my experience.
Anyone else? Don't be shy. Thank you, Lynn. You're not shy.
Sometimes I am. I'm gonna cry, and I didn't bring any Kleenex. But anyway, I first met Ann and Chris in 1976. Yeah.
Is it that late?
Yeah. I was born and raised here, and I grew up most of my life here, and I'd gone off to live in a hippie commune in Barrington, New Hampshire. And then we moved back here and started to develop a piece of property I had inherited. And my husband was in Post and Beam. He actually helped build Rusty's house, first house here in town. And I know he worked with Chris. I think he met him through some job that they were doing, and Chris was the architect, so he had to deal with Chris, and that's when we first met you guys. You were living over on Water Street.
Yep.
I just relayed this story to me.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And they got to be better and better friends, and then we got invited out there for dinner one night, and we got there for dinner, and it was a vegetarian dinner. It was actually a macrobiotic dinner. And Paul and I were definitely meat eaters. And I remember when I left the dinner, I said to Paul, well, I could have made that a lot tastier. Anybody who knows macrobiotics is they don't use any seasoning or spices or anything like that. It's just bland food. But of course, as you eat it more often, you get the flavor of the actual food, and it ends up becoming delicious. And Anne was the first one to introduce me to that food. I later went on to become macrobiotic for 12 years. Thank you, Anne. Paul never did, though. And I think, did you and Chris come to our barn raising
I
in
don't know.
75,
I don't remember.
76?
I certainly was in that barn often enough,
Yeah.
but I don't remember.
Well, I know that Paul helped Chris and you build your Post and Beam house, even though you were left with a lot of it to build. I remember you were doing all the stonework and the front. She was out. You drive by and you'd see Anne out, and it's about Chris, but it's about who they were, where they came from. And you'd be out there with your wheelbarrow filled with cement. And one time Chris had some logging done in the field, well, back in the woods to the left. And he needed to get the logs pulled out to a front field so the trucks could come and pick them up.
Right.
And you had a choice back then. Most people just went for the big equipment to come in and drag the stuff out, which tore up the land and made a mess, and it just left a lot of mess. And Chris didn't want that. He wanted it, as nice as possible. So he called my husband, who had a draft horse, who found another draft horse down in Concord somewhere. And we hitched them up together, and he got a quick course in how to drive a team of horses. And we went over and hauled the logs out and for Chris, and left his land all nice and just some horse hoofs. Horse hoofs, indentations. And there was one other committee that Chris hosted or led in this town, and it hasn't been mentioned here today. I'm surprised. He was he headed up the committee to plant trees. Remember, we had a tree planting association, and they planted trees all up and down the roadsides and around parking lots and stuff. And just about every tree you see along the roadsides and in the parks and Heskey Park and stuff were trees that were brought in and planted by Chris's group. And I missed that group because we could use another round of tree planting. So if the GMC wants to do anything, that's another good project for you guys. But Chris and Ann were quiet people. They even though they were both Aries, which always floored me because I could never figure out how two Aries could remain married in the same house.
What? He was a Taurus.
Oh, he was a Taurus?
Yes.
Uh-huh. Well, that makes it easier. But they were they were doing organic farming and preservation of natural wildlife. You had a beautiful field with, I remember all the wildflowers you were out there seeding. And I think you had your baby at home with the midwife? Not you? No, another hippie Craig.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just want to tell you some of the older background of Chris and Ann and maybe where all this philanthropy came from, because he was a hippie, or he was of the hippie age, even though he never wanted to be called a hippie. But it was a time of social sharing and gathering, potluck suppers, and forming alliances to get things done with people who didn't have the money maybe or the wherewithal. And that's just the old days of Chris here in Meredith. I hope that helps fill out the picture.
I had just a very short, sweet story about Chris and Ann. I usually meet Ann at the post office. That's where we always met each other and talked with each other. And I knew Chris, and she you didn't travel with him all that often, but they had gone out to California. And I saw her right after they got back at the post office. And I said, "Oh, how was it? How was your trip?" She said, "It was wonderful." And she said, Chris and I forgot how much fun we have together.
Great story.
I'd like to make a couple of comments. One, speaking of the hippie world, Chris told me that when he was living in Colorado, when he was a young fellow, Judy Collins actually babysat for him.
She lived next door.
Lived next door. That's an icon. That if you're a music lover, you know about Judy Collins. And she was really hot in the hippie days. Another comment is I got an email in response to the email I sent about this dedication ceremony from Pam Coburn. Pam was one of the early adopters, I guess, participants in the Greater Meredith program. In the design committee, she worked on the facade program a lot, I know. And she is not in good health. She's moved to California, lives with her daughter and family, and so she said she wouldn't be able to make it. But she made a couple of nice comments. She said, talked about how much Chris meant to her and to the town of Meredith and everything he did, and he just got things done in a quiet way, and she really missed him. And I saw Pam about a year ago coming out of the post office, and that's the last time I've seen her. But I was happy to get that email, which I wanted to bring and read it, but that's from memory. The other thing is Nancy Levine does a lot of great things for the town. She also put together a nice, smaller stone than this, and had it inscribed at the Meredith Community Center in a garden there. And it's at a place where there's stone that I remember hearing, and that came from your and Chris's yard, that forms a little area or a sitting area. And Nancy thought it would be a great place to put the stone so that people that wanted to contemplate. If you haven't seen it, you ought to go see it. It's really, really cool. A little simpler than this, but beautiful.
I also, hasn't been mentioned here before, but Chris was formed, did he form the committee, the design committee for the
Yes.
arch? He started that, he had the idea to have the Archie statue. And then Jim started hosting the gatherings at his house, down at your house. And Chris was there, but he was again, his quiet self, kind of just interjected when he had something important to share. And then I got invited to come down and join them, and offer any ideas that I had. And I remember they were Chris and maybe you, Jim, too, were talking about building a statue. And I said to them, well, have you gone to Archie Comics Incorporated? And they go, what for? And I said, well, it's their trademark. And you need their permission or you're going to end up in court. So that was one of the most valuable things I contributed to. But they went on, and Jim did a great job raising the funds. We had Rusty and Bob Lawton and our family, and what was the point? Oh, Archie Comics.
Yes.
We couldn't believe they donated $5,000.
Well, they did. Their president personally donated because the
Yeah,
organization
yeah.
wouldn't donate. So.
Yeah, he wasn't going to go to the two CEOs. There were joint CEOs because they would have voted it down because, of course, they never wanted to pay any attention to Bob Montana. The president of Archie Comics, somewhere he found in a fund somewhere $5,000 to send us for the statue. So that pretty much paid for it. But there were a lot of other people who had donated. But I wanted, I know I thanked Chris a lot when he was alive because of that statue, because it meant so much to our family. And to put it there in that pocket park there was just a great idea. It was a big addition, I think.
Oh, it's been a huge
Yeah. I still drive by and see people with two little kids on either side standing up and kissing Archie on the cheek. And somebody put a hat on him in the wintertime, somebody put a muffler around him, and somebody put a mask on him during COVID.
Yes.
All kinds. So, that's another contribution that he made to the town and to our family too.
Fortunately, we made the bench long enough so that people can come and sit next to Archie. And like you said, there's so many kids that I've seen with their parents and a camera. You got to get just right and sit up next to Archie. It's amazing.
That was my suggestion.
Anyone else?
Go ahead.
You gotta make seating on both sides because you gotta get kids. I've seen them sitting in his lap. Somebody put their kid on his shoulders even. It was a great success.
Absolutely. So I sand the bench twice a year, and then I have to stop sanding the bench because the tour buses pull up, and they all literally come over across the street to take their picture with Archie. It's part of their tour. So I stand there and they look at me and I go, okay, yeah, just stay out of the picture. Okay, so,
But there's a plaque on that granite
yes, the,
pillar
yep,
to
the
left.
plinth to Bob.
Did Nancy Levine have anything to do with that?
I really didn't, that was.
It was me.
Jim.
That was you? You
Jim
designed
Bosco.
it? Because it's very similar to this bronze plaque.
And the one for Mr. Nichaporic inside, they're the same plaque, same
Yeah.
dimensions.
Yeah.
So I'm good at that plaque. So, anyway, speaking of that plaque, anyone else want to say a few words? What I'd like to do is just read the text on the plaque, okay?
Jim did a lot of work at creating that wording. And Ann and May gave their input, but Jim worked really hard, did a great job, I think.
Yep. So, what you have is the image of the facade, okay, and the Main Street side. So, 1988 line drawing of Meredith Public Library, Phase 2 edition, designed by CPW AIA. Christopher P. Williams, AIA, 1947 to 1924. On behalf of a grateful community, this plaque honors and recognizes Chris for his many contributions to the town and state that he loved. Chris's architectural firm was instrumental in designing the beautiful 1988 addition to the Meredith Public Library, as shown by the above line drawing. His firm also designed our new community center in 2003 and provided an in-kind donation of the design for the impressive new Meredith Veterans Memorial in 2023. Chris was a founder of Main Street Meredith, which became Greater Meredith Program. GMP continues to enrich our town through its many programs. Working with other passionate preservation advocates, he established Inherit New Hampshire, now New Hampshire Preservation Alliance, to preserve the character of New Hampshire communities and landscapes. He served on several New Hampshire governors' committees. We are fortunate indeed to have had Chris as our friend and for his quiet, powerful leadership to make Meredith such a special place. Thank you. That's it.
Yeah, good job.
All right?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We enjoyed doing it.
Yes.